Fine. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
I'm busy.
It's a cozy group.
I think Jared's okay. Yeah. I mean, when you consider the group, I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm always delighted to see you, Nate. Have a seat wherever you want. Most of our members are virtual today, as you see.
Good morning.
Rita, have a seat. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm Zoom hopping this morning. I just left the first meeting.
No worries. We're a split. We got 3 board members or 2 board members in person, 4 board members that'll be virtual. We've got you virtual. We've got Bill in person. You know, we're making the most of hybrid.
Good morning.
Work at its finest. So we're just waiting on Scott and with our Scott Kevin, I think. You can move that if it's easier, Melissa.
I can't see it that well from
Okay.
back there. I would.
Like I always keep it over there, but you know.
Where did the YouTube go? There it is. Oh, it's
Yeah,
already muted.
you hit live.
Okay, well, I thought I can hear feedback on my end back here, so I thought that there might be YouTube was not microphone.
Are we still waiting on 2 people to start?
Yes, you're right.
Scott.
But we need a quorum. We have 4 meetings in there. We need 4. So you can start if you want, or you can wait. It's kind of your call. Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I say let's go ahead and get to it. What time is it? Well, let's give Scott another.
It's 8:03.
Yeah.
As we're waiting for a couple more people to join us, I'll take a quick second to introduce Bill O'Donnell, who is sitting here at the table with us this morning. He is our finance manager. He's been with us since August, so for quite a while. But it's the first time he's come to see you guys, so we're super lucky to have him. He came from the state and has quite a bit of institution, like university budgeting and management experience. And he's figured out how to do urban renewals in like lickety-split time. So he's taking care of our budgets and making sure we're not spending where we're not supposed to be and keeping us all out of trouble. I mean, we know with you, Nate, we need somebody to keep us out of trouble.
Good luck with that.
Let's see. Scott says he doesn't have the link. No, but I have my phone in here that I can see. Easy to miss, no worries. Bring it in. Let us know once we get sent over to our go from there. Thank you.
That's why we give it a go.
It's quite true. It's quite true. And I guess this is Melissa Owens. I guess the board hasn't met her before either. She's been here since December, but she is one of our new administrative support team members, and she's fantastic and technically savvy and keeps us all moving. So I know she sent out the emails to everyone, so you'll be hearing from her as well, but so she's new to our team. New people, you know, gotta keep things interesting. Okay, perfect. say if you're having trouble, I can always forward it if you want to send it to me too. Nobody else has reached out, so they don't know. It's literally the only reason I bring my phone in is things like that happen. Need a Zoom link. Something. It's coming, so. So it's up to you how long you want to wait.
Do we have, I thought we had one. Kevin?
Kevin, but he's not online yet.
Okay. We're good?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
hey Scott.
Sorry about that.
Hopefully he's,
Oh, don't apologize.
yeah, I think he's here. There he is. Okay. Let's call to order the February 6th North Gateway Redevelopment Advisory Board meeting. Can we start with a roll call?
Jared Robert, one chair.
Oh, here.
Deacon Lucas,
Here.
Mike Alley. Absent. Scott Cantwell
Here.
and Castano.
Here.
Kevin Moss.
Just absolutely forgot me.
And Nate.
We gotta make sure we got on the record that he's there.
Nathan Levine.
Levin.
Levin, sorry,
Still a little bit.
thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Agenda approved. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from November 7th?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Approved. No public comment today, right?
No one is here.
Okay, we gotta start with elections. I would like to continue being the chair. I enjoy it. I do need a motion or no?
Somebody does need to nominate you.
Someone
and
needs
you
to
need a
nominate
second.
me.
I will nominate Jared Martin as the chair.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, approved. Vice chair, I understand Deacon still would like to continue being vice chair. I would nominate it. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And Deacon keeps his seat.
Sweet. That was a close one. I appreciate it, everybody.
Okay.
Do you have any funding cuts?
Maybe next time I want to talk about that at the end of the meeting.
Okay, some of us were here. We have Bill O'Donnell here. He is the finance manager for the board. Go ahead, sir, if you'd like to do any kind of introduction and then.
Sure. So I think everyone might have been on except for Scott, but we have Bill O'Donnell with us this morning. He is our finance manager for our entire department, which also includes all the urban renewal areas. So typically in February of each year, we get a budget to review and then hopefully make a motion to move forward. As in previous years, just especially for those folks who are new, you know, NGRAB's budget is a little different because we did go through the maximum indebtedness process back in 2019. A big part of that process was to identify the projects as to how we would spend those additional funds, going through a public process to do that. So as we're developing these budgets each year, we're really going back to that document, which is why in the packet every year I always provide sort of an update of all those different projects. You know, over time, obviously we've had conversations about how we might tweak some of those projects here and there, but the essence of what they would achieve will continue to be the same. So in terms of sort of how we're bringing projects in, it's done a little bit differently. And then I think the other thing to just kind of note is there's been several projects in the budget that have been rollover for a variety of reasons. Some things were put into place before we even went through the MI process because we were going to be down so few funds that the board at the time was a little concerned that they may not have the ability to sort of do some projects they would like to see in the future. Some of that is just because of timing, you know, staffing, COVID, costs, a number of different things. But what I just want to make sure that I kind of point out is I think what you'll start to see, especially here in this coming fiscal year, is a lot of those projects, we will start to drain those funds. So you won't continue to see them getting rolled over. So I'll hand it over to Bill to kind of just go over the budget, and then we can discuss afterwards with any questions you all have, or things of that nature. The document that we're reviewing, which is the one that was in your packet that has the fun little dollar sign up in the far corner, is a little bit different from what you've seen in the past. This is what is in the budget book. So it makes it easier when you're trying to like compare the two. It's exactly the same. But I sent to all of our virtual members this morning and those in person another version of, it's literally the exact same, it's just more information and it's more in that construction format that you're kind of used to. This feeds into the larger budget, but because the one with the dollar sign is the one that's going in the budget book, that's the one that we're kind of working off of. So just as a little clarification and kind of some connection between those two. And I will hand it over to Bill.
Okay, well, my impression of the urban renewal areas is that they're seeking opportunities to do positive things in the community. You're never sure when these opportunities will come about. So part of what we're trying to do. What I'm doing to support Sarah and the board is basically putting in the budget what are planned to be projects. And even if we don't think we're going to spend the money this year, we're putting it into the budget so that there is what's considered expenditure authority. So we have to have not only the money, but we have to have expenditure authority approved by the city council. So the idea is again, even if we don't plan to spend it this year, we want to have it in the budget so that if something does break loose and there's an opportunity to really move forward, I'm not doing anything that's going to slow you down or stop you. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is be aligned with Sarah and the board so that anything you're seeking to do, whether it's to issue some grants or to be able to move forward on a project, then you're good to go. And so what I've done is with the projects that are, most of these are continuing forward, is I've taken what were the previously approved balances that you all authorized and looked on this year at how much has been spent. Normally, these are fairly significant expenditures, so they're all subject to a purchase order. So as far as estimating what we spend the remainder of the year, I can look at the outstanding purchase orders, the balance on those. So that pretty much tells me what we're going to spend this year. And so that beginning allotment that you all have approved, minus what we plan to spend this year, is what's carrying forward into next year's budget. So that's what we've listed on this document. And so this document with kind of the dollar sign up at the corner is published in a book about the urban renewal areas. Behind the last tab are sheets for all of the urban renewal areas that look like this. The city council approves the content of that book. And so they're in the book, they're official projects, and you're good to go and move on. So that's kind of my role in this. So again, I've worked with Sarah, and she's advised me the status of each of these projects. In some cases, there are been issues where, as we've gotten further into the project, opportunities presented themselves, we've added funds to the projects. And so she has been involved in briefing me on what has to happen with these projects so that I can make sure we get them listed in the budget and you have the expenditure authority to move forward. It's in a nutshell what I'm trying to accomplish. So.
Do you want me to walk through?
Sure.
Okay. So it's a really high level kind of walkthrough. There's really two things I want to make sure I'm bringing the board's attention to. The first item you see is FY 2026 new projects, and that's going to be the Portland Road infrastructure improvements. For most of the board, you'll recall we had a conversation not too long ago when engineering had brought to our attention that one of the bond projects that had been approved was actually to do additional improvements to Portland Road kind of south of the section of where we've already made a bunch of infrastructure, sidewalk, crossings, utility improvements. We had always, as a board, had that as a high priority to go south of that area, but we've never had enough funding to be able to do it. Even when we went through the MI process, it was either do that or do hardly anything else. When it came to the board, the conversation was, hey, there's a bond project, we can piggyback onto that and do a lot of those improvements that the board's always wanted, but staying within sort of the framework of funds that we had available to us. And so what you're gonna see on here is this particular project is a 2027 bond project, but design work will start kind of this coming year. So what I've done is recommended putting in 1.9. Where that 1.9 is coming from is, granted, it's coming from our MI project list, and it's coming from the Pine Street Extension Fund. So as you might recall, we're not moving forward with that project. Didn't work out with the railroad, the costs, things of that nature. So some of the funds that we had planned to go towards that, we've been able to put towards Silverton Road, because those costs went up quite a bit. And we still had a little bit left in sort of that pot. And so I've moved that into the Portland Road infrastructure improvements. I think we'll be putting in more than the 1.9, but part of the conversation will be with engineering is, what does that full project look like? And then what are the things that we might be able to add to it? And what would that look like in terms of funding? So this kind of just helps get us going with them here in this next cycle. Are there any questions about that one before I move on? The second thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is the first item under FY 2026 carryover projects. You're going to see the rehabilitation grant program. As you all might recall, right before COVID and the MI increase, we could not keep money in our grant program. We would put $1 million in, and we would immediately, it would be gone within 4 or 5 days. We would put another $1 million in, it would be gone within 4 or 5 days. At the same time, we were finding that we were having people doing projects where they were working on a site, all of the maps said that they were connected to city water or city sewer, and as they got in there, come to find out they weren't. And so now they had this infrastructure need that they weren't expecting at a big cost. Our grant funds were gone because there was such a high demand for it. This was also the same point in time when we were starting to get traction on some affordable housing projects. And for those of you who are familiar with affordable housing, the funds don't always come in when you want them to time with when we might have $1 million in the grant program. And so when we were going through the MI process, the board had a really thorough conversation about how do we help those projects who aren't going to be ready sort of on a July 1st, October 1st kind of timeframe, because things come up. And so we took the rehabilitation grant program and we basically divided it up into 3 separate programs. So we had your standard grant program, which would go towards, everything that we do and then some. But what we did is we said, well, you can do affordable housing within our grant program, but let's do a call out and have funds just for that purpose. And you can do development infrastructure work in our grant program, but let's have a call out for that too. So we kind of held those funds so that if the standard rehab grant program was out of money, which it had been for about 18 months at that point, we could still help those kind of projects that might come online at a more, inconvenient time in terms of our funding availability. And so over the last 5 years, we've been running those through, and we've been able to use money for a project here for affordable housing early on, but we really haven't needed them, not because we haven't done those types of projects, but because we haven't had that same level of just aggressive demand since COVID. And so the last probably 18 months, we haven't touched it. We've just been rolling it over. And as we're getting to the point where we are going to, here within the next year, we're going to stop collecting increment. I had a conversation with Jared and with Kristen about let's start to merge that back under one umbrella. It kind of doesn't make sense to keep moving it forward if no one's really using it. And as long as we have resources in our standard grant program, we're going there first anyway. So it's kind of just cutting down on the administration, and it's just putting all the funds back into one pot as it used to be, since the demand isn't there at the same level that it was when we made the change. So it's just kind of a recommendation to kind of, based on what the organic nature is of grant inquiries these days, to kind of make a change in our budget to reflect it. So those are the two big differences and changes that you're gonna see in the proposed budget. Beyond that, I can tell you, industrial site readiness has been rolled over. I am having conversations with our engineering folks and with Business Oregon too on some potential grants, looking at some areas in North Gateway that we're just really having some problems developing in, to see if we can't do some additional site work. So I'm hoping to bring something to the board here in the next, couple of meetings as to how we might be able to utilize those funds. 2640. We're rolling those funds over, but the plan is that next month at our meeting, we'll actually be having a goal setting session where we talk about what do we want to see out of that site and really start the process to do that developer outreach. So that's going to start moving as well. Silverton at 17th, we're not adding new funds to that either, but we are going to be starting construction. Utility work is going to start first in the summer, but we'll be having an update probably at either the May meeting or the June meeting with our engineering folks. So that one's going to start moving here in the next couple of months as well. Environmental remediation is sort of on hold as we sort of keep delving into our 2640 site. As you all know, we've got some environmental concerns there, so we just got to see how that plays out. Strategic project grant, we had a lot of activity on it early on, as you might recall. This is our $20,000 safety, security, no match kind of grant. But because we're not having an abundance of use, we did recommend putting more money into it. We still have a little over 200,000. It's only 20,000 per grant, so we still have quite a bit to be able to do things with. And then our next couple are ones that we've kind of held on to as we're sort of continuing to look at our sites, continuing to look at our projects. Are in there, and then the Portland Road, I will mention the Portland Road bicycle path because that one's been in there for quite a while. Those were design funds that the board wanted to hold on to in case we purchased a site where there was an opportunity to do an alternative path or something of that nature. We haven't moved in that direction, but I am having conversations with both our transportation planning and our engineering groups on what projects are kind of out there, not only in our bike ped plan, but also what bond projects were out there that were tied to bike ped that might make sense from a connectivity standpoint. So we're looking at that because we do have some construction funds tied to that in our MI list. So I'm hopeful in the next probably 6 months that some of these things, one, they're going to be moving a lot quicker, but two, some of these that we've been rolling over, I think we'll have a little bit more clarity in terms of what some suggestions are and on how we direct that more specifically. And I'll stop talking because that was a lot.
Questions? Concerns?
Can you remind me, when does the current lease on the 2640 Portland Road property come to an end?
So they've been on a 6-month lease. It actually ended in December and they're now on month to month.
And do they have a certain amount of time that they plan to utilize that site, or is it just kind of up to when this group decides to move on whatever path we go down?
Sure. And I will try my best to answer, but we also are lucky enough to have Kristen on the call because this is also taking coordination with our real estate team and things of that nature. So they're aware of the month to month for the sole purpose of the fact that we do intend to redevelop the site. So the goal is to keep them informed as to sort of what we're doing, what our timing is, in order to allow them the opportunity to find a new location. But we have been telling them for about 2 years that this is coming and that it's always been a temporary sort of solution and just an asset that we were lucky enough to sort of have when it was needed. I don't know if that's good enough, Kristen, or if there's anything I should chime in on.
No, I think they want to stay as long as they can. They would like to renew the lease. We've told them that we have plans to move forward with the redevelopment. So I don't anticipate them getting serious about moving until we give them notice.
And I
Thank
guess
you.
that would start if we decide to move forward on the hazardous part of that
Yeah, so the first step is we'll do, at our next meeting, we'll be doing sort of a goal setting. So it'll be a very similar process for how we've done block 50 and block 45, which are both located downtown. So we'll be working through kind of, I'll be providing the board sort of a starting list of sort of all these different things that you might want to see out of the project. And we'll kind of try to narrow down, are there things that aren't on there, are there things you guys don't want to see? And then from that, we'll start to kind of develop sort of a call to developers. We'll be, outreaching to our local counselor of that area. We'll have to meet with the agency, council, before that all goes out. And so, it's a long process, but it is a very, once we go out to the development, it's a very public process. So, it's not as if we'll be working and they won't have any idea as to sort of what's going on. I will say, Tori and myself took Bill out for a little drive through of all our urban rural areas, and we did stop on the site just to kind of point things out. And within 30 seconds, we had 2 people from there asking who we were and what we were doing with the site when we said we were with the city. So they're very in tune that things are happening out there, but there are environmental concerns too. And so, that's part of it. Is we need to make sure however we're using that site is safe too. So yeah, I think you're right on the money. But the goal is in our next meeting, we're really going to start diving into that site and development in a much bigger way.
So what I'm kind of seeing from the budget is we didn't really have to add any money anywhere.
We added the 1.9.
Okay, but I mean, we didn't have to refund the grant, because I'm just thinking years previous where when we did budget talks, we kind of had to move some money around to make sure it was good, but it seems like everything is well funded for the next calendar year.
Correct.
Got
And I think you'll see a lot of that money go down in the next calendar year. So
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, so then we'll be
See
adding.
some stuff moving.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, any other questions or concerns? Control group? Nate? Nope, nothing. Well, I'm gonna put a motion forward to approve the budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Budget approved.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
You can hang out. You don't have
Nice
to
to
leave.
meet you.
This meeting,
Yeah.
But you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. It's completely up to you.
Next on the agenda, boards and commission recommendations. We have Kristen here. Good to see you again, Kristen.
Good to see you too. And I am surprised that Bill decided to stay because this will be his 3rd time hearing this spiel. I feel like you could just cover it yourself, Bill. So I will start with kind of the background of how we got to where we are. So the city has retained Moss Adams to do a number of different kind of audits, studies, and make recommendations from things that range from the performance and effectiveness of the city manager's office to our urban renewal areas and their performance to governance and then also to efficiencies. So they're looking at a lot of different things kind of in this, overarching context of our budget issues and how we can do things that are either cost savings or how we can do things more efficiently or more effectively. So coming out of their study of governance and our various boards and commissions, they're looking at, okay, we've got a couple of urban renewal areas that are nearing the end of their life that are going to start winding down in the next 2 to 3 years. We've got a new urban renewal area that we're working towards creating that's along the North Waterfront. There's community interest in creating urban renewal areas in other parts of the community. We've heard about out along Lancaster, Mission Street. It's come up as a part of our housing production strategy as a tool to create kind of some different types of urban renewal areas with purposes that are targeted specifically towards housing creation. So with all of that, and then looking at operating 3 boards, what that means for staff time in terms of starting, at the city manager's office and the staff there that has to manage the all the different applications for the different boards, and go through the process of filling vacancies and the boards and commissions appointments committee that occurs in providing support there, to staff within urban development and doing all of the notices for our meetings, doing things like, setting up the Zoom meetings, contacting all of our board members to make sure that they are available and that we will have a quorum, building those relationships with multiple different board members. So having the kind of the redundancy of that tied to the the 3 different URA boards, and the fact that for most of our urban renewal areas, we don't have advisory boards. We only have them where we have grant programs. So kind of that, with that background, their recommendations regarding governance included a recommendation to combine the 3 different advisory boards into one advisory board. So that went to council as a recommendation in December, and council, along with other recommendations, and council asked, well, what's the feedback from our advisory boards? And our response was, well, we haven't had that conversation because this is Moss Adams' report to the city council, and we didn't want to get out ahead of city council and present the findings of a report or recommendations of a report that consultants have prepared for city council before it was shared with city council. So the council then asked us to do that outreach to our advisory board. So we've now had this conversation with Downtown Advisory Board. Yesterday was with West Salem Advisory Board. And I'm more than happy to share those discussions, but probably would want to hear your thoughts and feedback, maybe before or after. I don't care if you would like to hear what they had to say first, happy to share that, or if you want to talk first and then have me share what their conversation was about and their comments. Happy to approach that either way. But what we are looking for today is not a formal action, and you can certainly make one if you want to, but just your comments and feedbacks and thoughts on whether it makes sense to you to combine them. So the structure that we'd be looking at in a merged board would have representatives right now from all 3 boards, probably a board that between 12 and 15 members. Most of our advisory boards are around that size, around 12, 13 members. So it might be a little bit bigger so that we could have representation from existing boards and then spaces for at-large members from the broader community. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to you for your discussion, and so we can get your feedback on this. And then I'm also happy to answer any questions you might have. Or Bill could.
Go ahead, Nate.
Christie, the first question that I have is, can you identify the 3 boards that you are considering the possibility of combining?
Oh, could you say that one more? The mic's a little bit far away. Let me turn, and I'll turn up my volume too. Okay, let's try it again.
What are the 3 boards that are proposed to potentially combine?
Okay, this would be the West Salem Advisory Board, the North Gateway Advisory Board, and the Downtown Advisory Board.
And the which?
The
Downtown. Okay.
Downtown.
All right. I have a comment to the other board members, as if Christine was not here. Okay. Okay.
You want me to do this? I can turn that volume back
You're
down.
fine. So my initial response is, I would not vote for supporting that proposal. And the reason why I would consider it not beneficial to the North Gateway Board is because the needs and priorities of each of the three boards are so separate and individualized that what North Gateway would consider something that is an immediate need for a specific project or responding to a specific project requirement is going to be very different from what the downtown development board would see and what West Salem would see. And as a prior member of the downtown advisory board, that was a complete mixed bag of development projects on the commercial streets as it related to retail businesses and some redo of buildings with very different interests. And so my suggestion to the other board members is that we continue on an individual basis or separately. Okay.
Hey, Scott, if you had something to say, I know you have to go, so I thought I'd give you a shot if you wanted to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I was about ready to hit the raise hand button.
Yeah.
I agree with just about everything that Nate shared. I think my second comment from a financial perspective would be understanding what the financial benefit of this is, given that all of us, well, I can't speak for all the board members, but I know my salary for being on this board is $0. So the financial impact is not high. So I would be interested in understanding what the real financial benefit to the city would be. I suspect it's nominal. But no, I think Nate made some great points as far as each of these areas kind of have nuances and dynamics that benefit from individualized representation. And I would like to see that continue. And with that, I'm going to jump off here.
Would you like me to speak to that question?
Yeah, I can take a couple minutes and
so because it's a pretty easy answer. The recommendation is not based really on financial savings. It's based more on efficiencies and staff workload, and that by supporting three boards, that's more time that they're not able to spend doing other tasks. And I'll speak to Melissa specifically. We used to have 2 people. We've eliminated one of those positions for cost savings. So that's where the benefit is. We have already made reductions of staff in the last few years, which has put more and more work on the remaining staff that we do have. And there are efficiencies that could be achieved in terms of staff support time and their capacity to do other work by combining them. So that was the rationale, not just that by eliminating 2 meetings, we're going to be saving $5,000. I'm picking a random number. I don't know what it would be.
No, I appreciate that feedback and that insight. I think my position would still remain the same, that I think the benefit of the individualized representation and familiarity with the urban renewal areas is a benefit. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, would anything change? I have to agree with Nate. I don't see a great gift to merging all 3 boards just because of the diversity of areas. But my question would be, what's proposed for how you would be choosing the board members? Is anything changing as far as owners of businesses in the area, with residential people that live in the area, with, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, as far as who, how many board members of which type are on that board?
So in conversations with the consultants, they were asking me for recommendations about what a structure could look like. So my recommendation was that if we move to combining them, that we would start with representation from the 3 existing boards into one. Okay, so there would still be representation for each urban renewal area, but not as many people from each urban renewal area. And that as boards were closed down, as those urban renewal areas are closed, that we would bring in more at-large positions from around the community representing, business interests, property owner interests. Right now, we have a bit of a struggle in keeping all of our seats filled. I think we've got 3 vacancies right now in West Salem. And so finding people that are a business owner within the urban renewal area, a financial representative, whatever the qualification might be, it can be difficult to find people within that geographic boundary that is willing to volunteer as you all are. So we, like with West Salem, have had 3 vacancies for a while. That can make it a challenge to get a quorum. But the plan, I think, moving forward would be to continue to have representation that reflects the same sorts of business interests, property interests, financial, advisor that we currently have making up our existing boards, but we would be able to draw on a larger pool beyond just the geographic boundary of a specific urban renewal area.
I have something to add real quick, just that, first of all, yes, I do agree that there's different needs in each of the areas, and so the unique representation of members from those areas, I think that's really important, especially when you're looking at areas like the the area that this board speaks for, because it's, I mean, looking at some of the demographics in terms of population, there's some really low incomes, there's some important economic indicators that just I feel make it more important for the local voice to be amplified. And then the other thing that I was thinking of is just if we were to combine multiple boards, then sure, there's efficiency in terms of staffing and staff capacity, but you're going to lose efficiency in terms of the work that each of those boards do. And when time is money, I think that's also something, it's something worth looking at, even though it's not as tangible.
Deacon?
Yeah, I want to pretty much say something similar to that. I'm on a couple other boards with quite a few members, and just the inefficiency of the boards. They sound good, but there's just a lot of people on the boards and nothing really gets done. And on this Northgate Urban Renewal Board, it's run very well. It's very efficient. I feel like every time we have meetings, we always have quorums. I just feel like if we were to combine urban renewal boards, the efficiency level of those boards would go down. How we would prioritize who would get priority for their projects and funding. I mean, there would be a certain period of time to even out the funding. So, if we were to vote, I would vote that we would stay independent and we'd continue to have our board separate.
So just to clarify, I totally appreciate your comments, but I just want to clarify something that I think I wasn't clear about before. Funding would stay as it is. You could only use the North Gateway funding within North Gateway. So you would not be competing for funding with other urban renewal areas.
Yeah, to touch on kind of what I think Deacon was saying there is, time-wise, if we're sitting in a boardroom, we have all these members, who's choosing which money we're talking about? And that's where your inefficiencies are gonna come from, like, oh, we're spending all this time over here, but we only have 45 minutes or an hour, and we never even got to North Gateway because everybody was concentrated on downtown. And so I am not okay with that. I would be against merging this board. And if you look at our remaining maximum indebtedness, this board doesn't have long, right?
No.
I mean, we're looking at maybe 2 years of this board still being here. And they're creating a third downtown, right? And that's gonna be in the downtown area.
It's gonna be between the downtown urban renewal area and the North Gateway urban renewal area. Along the front.
Maybe that's a better fit to be merged with downtown, considering it's adjacent right there, than our board.
And that one may not even have an advisory board. Out of the 8 urban renewal areas that we have currently, we only have 3 advisory boards.
Okay.
We haven't gotten that far in the process, but we're working on it.
Because you gotta pass
Kristen's
it.
being very nice, but Tori and I are trying to move it along a little quicker. It's on our plate.
Is that something that goes to a vote because to create a grant program?
The URA will have to go through the public process. So the creating a URA is in a lot of ways almost identical to when we went through the maximum indebtedness, a substantial amendment process. So it's a very long public process, and then you would create the projects in the plan. So in the plan, you would be creating, you would have a grant program, but then you would still have to do the administrative sort of framework of what that grant program is. So that would either be going to advisory board or it would be going to the agency, because you have to remember we sort of have multiple sort of tiers of approvals that we can take. So it just kind of depends on how that all plays out.
Okay. I noticed Kevin joined us. Kevin, did you have anything to say to add to this?
I don't know. I just kind of been watching and waiting. I'm not sure of the gravity of trying to combine these boards or what the devil in the details is. So I'm just kind of keeping my mouth shut and trying to collect as much information so I can say something of value. So right now, I mean, it sounds exciting to merge, but what's urged this on? Is it as a result of, something else? So I'm a little bit in the dark and I'm still in my learning phase here. So, yeah. But when I heard it originally proposed, I mean, my initial impression was thinking that it was something maybe not positive, like a consolidation of our resources.
So what has urged it was the bringing on Moss Adams. So I'll back up a little bit further. The city manager's work plan with city council included a number of different things. And one of the things on that list was governance. So that was a council priority over the last couple of years, is how can we improve our governance processes and how can we make them more efficient? Okay. And so it was the efficient study and the governance studies that led to a recommendation that this is a way to streamline governance and achieve efficiency.
So if that's Moss Adams was our consulting firm we hired, and if these are the recommendations they gave, I mean, if you're going to go to your doctor, you take the recommendations they give you. Otherwise, what was the point of ever going? So if we trust in this firm and what they say, I mean, then there's some credence to be given to that, especially if it, saves money down the road and increases efficiency. So initially, I mean, I would say that, I was a little leery of the idea of separating boards, but if this comes from an expert opinion after data collection and research, then, I mean, I'm not wiser. I'm not going to say I'm wiser to have my opinion beats an informed decision. So I would lean to following on the consulting firm's recommendations. Otherwise, why did we ever hire them?
Would you like to hear what the 2 other boards had to say?
Sure.
Okay. So their feedback was that basically they think it makes a lot of sense from an efficiency perspective, and they can understand why the recommendation was made, and they don't like it and don't want to do it for all the same reasons that you are giving about unique natures of the urban renewal areas and representation.
What kind of timeline is this?
There isn't a timeline that was established with the recommendation. The conversations with council were that we would go out to the advisory boards, get the feedback, take that back to them in an information report, which we'll be doing in March. And then the council will have then another opportunity to deliberate and determine if they want to follow through on the recommendation of the consultants. or go a different direction based on feedback received.
So from what I'm hearing from the majority of the board, I guess I'll put a motion to send a recommendation that this board would oppose being joined to the 2 other boards. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? No opposed. Is that the right way to do that? Oh,
That's a fine way to do it. The other boards didn't make a formal motion. We're just gonna take the feedback, but we'll include in the staff report that a formal motion was made.
okay.
And I took notes of everyone's feedback, so I'll be providing that so that your specific comments are being provided. And I will down notes, plus obviously I'll work this way too.
Yeah.
And then I'll keep the board updated as things happen.
Okay, great. Anything else, Kristen?
No, I appreciate your discussion.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Thanks for coming.
Me too. Oh, hey, I do have one other thing. Sorry. I forgot to mention that we have a new, our assistant director of the Urban Development Division retired at the end of December. Dana Decline is our new assistant director. She starts on Monday. So I'm sure she will be making the rounds to the different boards and introducing herself. She comes to us from Prosper Portland, which used to be Portland Development Commission. She started there as an intern while still in college and never left. So she comes with several years, many years of experience in urban renewal, understands it very well, has been involved in the creation of a number of like new and interesting programs that they have in Portland, including neighborhood urban renewal areas, a lot of experience with community engagement. So I think we're very fortunate to have her join us and bring that background.
Great. Anything else? Oh, you wanted to talk about the schedule.
Oh, and what's happening / other updates.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to give the board a heads up as to Jared and I had a chance to meet a couple weeks ago to kind of take a look at how our calendar will probably be looking this year. I know we were, trying to give you guys a heads up. Everyone's very busy. So we would like to have a March meeting, and really the goal of that whole meeting will be focused on that 2640 Portland Road site. So really to start narrowing down those things you guys would really, like to see in terms of development. And so I'll be framing something up, but having everyone participate, I think would be really, really valuable.
Yeah.
We are hoping to not have an April meeting. Then we would be looking at either May or June. We're gonna see how things sort of play out. Because we're probably looking at an update to the 2640, what's happening there. We're gonna be having engineering be coming in to give us an update on the Silverton and 17th Street project, as construction starts getting started. And then we'll probably have some update on kind of how the board merger conversation is going. As always, we will be not having a July meeting. It always falls right at the 4th of July holiday. There is no point in trying to get a quorum. We'll be shooting for an August meeting. And then per usual, we'll try to skip September, and then we'll be looking at November, December, one or the other, or both, depending on kind of what things look like. So just for future planning, wanted to give everyone a heads up as to kind of how the work plan is looking for the upcoming year. That's all.
Great.
And the comment that March 6th meeting is virtual only.
No.
So that's what it says, this meeting.
We're updating this. And Melissa and I just noticed that there were some things in this that aren't quite accurate
Oh,
anymore.
okay, all right.
So we are not, we are hybrid.
Okay.
Obviously we will continue to be that way unless the board chooses they'd like to do something different. So yes, we need to update. Actually, we just were talking about it last week when we saw it get kicked out, that we need to update sort of this little language thing to be a little bit more reflective. So we will be right here in this conference room.
Okay.
Or on the screen, whatever works for people.
Sarah,
Yeah.
can you send us calendar holds out as early as possible? That really helps with just for me for scheduling.
Yeah, and we used to be really good about it. We've had some internal changes, but we're getting everything back into like a groove. So we'll be getting all the calendar holds out now that we're in the new year, so that everyone has it. And then as things change, we'll cancel. per usual, we don't typically say we're not going to have a meeting unless really it falls on the holiday, and we'll try to wait till it gets a little closer, because sometimes actionable items do come up and we might need to have a quick one. So we do try to kind of keep that open just in case. But this is sort of just a help guideline of what we're thinking.
Okay. Anything else, board members on virtual? Okay, well, thanks everybody that came. Bill, thank you. Kristen, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you again.
Thank you,
Have a good one.
everybody.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.